Hey, sweet faces. This week we are talking about comparing decimals and a few things before we start. Up top, as I like to try to do, we have some really good reminders of what we need to do and what order to do them. First of all, we want to make sure we fill any empty spaces with zeros. Remember that our goal with that is to make sure that our digits are the same. So if one digit has or if one number has 3 digits, then the other number also has 3 digits. Keeps them balanced. It also helps our brain make really strong connections when we're comparing to make sure that we're comparing the proper place values. Once we do that, we start with the largest place value sliding all the way to the left and comparing, asking ourselves over and over again, which one is bigger until we find the difference. And then as always, use our symbol. Remember, we've talked about remembering that as an alligator mouth. The open mouth is always trying to eat the larger number. So with that, let's dive in. We're looking at 94 hundredths. We're comparing it to 49 hundredths. Starting off, they both have 1 digit before the decimal, 2 digits after. Start by comparing ones place and ones place. 0 and 0, they're the same. 9 tenths and 4 tenths. 9 tenths is greater, putting in our sign. These are not equal, so we want to make sure we start off with our place-saving zeros. I'm going to put a 0 behind the 9. So now that they both have 2 digits behind the decimals, jump in and compare. 1 and 1 are the same. 8 and 9 in the tenths place, 9 is greater. That means that 1 and 9 tenths or 1 and 90 hundredths is the greater value. Popping down here, they're both balanced. So we start with comparing. 9 and 9 is the same. 9 and 9 is the same. 9 and 8, 9 is bigger. So 9 and 99 hundredths is greater than 9 and 98 hundredths. Next one, they're balanced. Start with comparing our larger value. 3 and 3, they're the same. 6 and 6, they're the same. 9 and 8, 9 is greater. So 3 and 69 hundredths is greater. 4 and 27 hundredths compared to 4 and 23 hundredths, they're balanced. So we start comparing. 4 and 4, they're the same. 2 and 2, they're the same. 7 and 3, 7 is greater. So 4 and 27 hundredths is greater. Last one. They are balanced. We start with comparing. 7 and 0 right off the bat. We're able to figure out that 7 and 22 hundredths is greater than 72 hundredths. If you have any questions, please bring them with you to class. Otherwise, that is the end of our first page. All right, sliding on to page number 2, still comparing decimals. That's our focus this week. Remember, most important part, I think, is to make sure that you are balancing them. Fill any empty spaces with zeros. This helps our brain make really strong connections to make sure that we know what we're comparing. Because sometimes if we look at unbalanced numbers like this first one here, we might think that 87 hundredths is bigger just because it has more digits. When we fill in our 0 place saver, now we can evaluate to make sure that it is actually bigger. In this case, it is, but not always. 0 and 0, they're the same. 8 and 8, they're the same. 7 and 0, 7 is greater. So 87 hundredths is bigger. Okay, next one, we're balanced. Start with our greatest value. 5 ones, 0 ones, 5 is greater. Don't have to go any further on that one. These are balanced. Let's compare 1 and 1. They're the same. 6 and 6, they're the same. 3 and 2, 3 is greater. So 1 and 63 hundredths is greater. Next one is balanced. Start with compare. 1 and 0, 1 is greater. We don't have to go any further with that one. 1 and 32 hundredths is greater. Last row, these I tried to be tricky because look, these look really similar, but we know that the placement of the number determines the value. So we have 1 and 0. This one is greater, even though they have the same digits. Think of it like money. If I have $1.58, that's going to be greater than any handful of change. Now, if we think of this as money, we would round up and say 16 cents, comparing $1.58 to 16 cents. But still, as soon as we know that we have a dollar, we know that that value is greater. Last one, 9 and 9, they're the same. 1 and 2, 2 is greater. So 9 and 24 hundredths is greater. And that's the end of this page. Go ahead and bring any questions with you to class. If you're ready for the third page, here we go. We are continuing to compare decimals, my friends. Again, I'm going to point out that this is the most important thing that you can do is make sure that your digits are balanced to help your brain make really strong connections. Let's compare 4 and 4. They're the same. 4 and 4, they're the same. 5 and 4, 5 is greater. These are balanced. Let's compare 3 and 3. They're the same. 4 and 4, they're the same. 4 and 1, 4 is greater. So 3 and 44/100ths is greater. 8 and 0, go no further. 8 and 12/100ths is greater. 8 and 8, no change. 2 and 2, no change. 8 and 7, 8 is greater. So 8 and 28/100ths is greater. Down here, first one on this page that we need to make sure we're balanced. This one has 1 digit before the decimal and 2 after. Once they're balanced, let's compare. 4 and 0, 4 is greater. Don't have to go any further. Last one, 2 and 2, they're the same. 0 and 0, they're the same. 1 and 8, 8 is greater. So 2 and 8/100ths is greater. That's the end of page number 3. Please bring any questions with you to class. Remember, rewatch as needed. All right, Nuggets, 4 of 5. We are almost there. You know at this point what I'm going to say. Super important to keep our questions balanced. These are balanced, so let's compare. 6 and 6, 3 and 3, 9 and 8. 9 is greater, so 6 and 39/100ths is greater. Over here, we're not balanced. 1 before, 2 after, 3 after. Add that 0 so that we are all matched up when we compare. 0 and 0, 6 and 0. 6 is greater. So 67/100ths or 670,000ths is greater. Down the bottom, 5 and 5, 9 and 3. This one is greater. Look at how close these are. I just reversed the digits to keep you on your toes. 0 and 0 is the same. 9 and 9 is the same. 9 and 1 got all the way to the 100th place to decide that 99/100ths is the greater value. We are unbalanced. We have 3 digits here, 2 here, space saving 0. Let's compare. 0 and 0, 0 and 8. Don't go any further. We've made our decision. Last one, make them balanced. And compare. 1 and 1, 3 and 2. 3 is bigger, so 1 and 30/100ths is bigger. That brings us to the end of page 4. If that is as far as you've gone, please go ahead and stop. If you're ready for the last page, page 5, here we go. Again, finishing up comparing decimals this week. You know what I'm going to say. Make them balanced. 2 and 2, they're the same. 5 and 5, they're the same. We're sensing a pattern. These are equal. These are equal. Balance it out with my place saving 0. 1 and 1, they're the same. 9 and 9, they're the same. 3 and 0, 3 is greater. Balance it out. 1 and 1, they're the same. 8 and 8, they're the same. 8 and 0, 8 is greater. Balance it out. 1 and 1, 5 and 0, 5 is greater. 2 more. 1 and 1, 6 and 6, 7 is greater. And then the last one, balance it out. 1 and 1, 4 and 5, 5 is greater. That brings us to the end of our practice for this week. Please bring any questions with you to class. Have an amazing weekend, Math.